Well, there was yet another court hearing in the Mike Flynn case today. And the Department of Justice is still trying to do Mike Flynn a favor, though. Let's talk about that. Because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So Mike Flynn's case was back in court today for a very long argument before Judge Sullivan. It was live streamed. It lasted 5 hours. I listened, so you don't have to. I did live tweet some of the juicier parts, but I actually think it was summed up nicely by a headline that just came out from ABC News, which said, quote, Flynn lawyers, DOJ, continue push to get case thrown out. You know, and they're pushing all right, but in my estimation, it was like they were pushing a stalled car up a hill, and they didn't get very far. Let me touch on just a couple of arguments that were made. First of all, the Department of Justice lawyers argued endlessly for hours trying to convince Judge Sullivan that Mike Flynn is getting no special treatment, no favors, just being treated like every other defendant. Like all those defendants who plead guilty in court and thereafter they have their cases dismissed. But setting that aside, they argued mightily that Mike Flynn is receiving no special treatment. And then Judge Sullivan turned his attention to Mike Flynn's lawyer, Sidney Powell, and he virtually started cross-examining her. One of his first questions was, Ms. Powell, have you had any conversations with the President of the United States about your client, Mike Flynn's case? And I wish I had the transcript in front of me, but I think the first thing out of her mouth was no. And then she added, well, except for updating the president about the case. And I know I heard Judge Sullivan say, wait a minute, I don't understand that answer. Then Sidney Powell tried to invoke executive privilege expressly to keep from talking about any conversations she may have had with the President of the United States. Now, executive privilege doesn't apply to her. It applies to the president and executive branch officials, and she's not a member of the executive branch. She's a criminal defense attorney representing Mike Flynn. So I think she quickly realized how foolish it was for her to try to invoke executive privilege. Because one, it doesn't apply, and two, it makes it clear that the last thing she wants to do is have to talk about conversations she may have had with the president about Mike Flynn. But then she started opening up a little bit, I think perhaps realizing she better be straight with Judge Sullivan, which is a good thing. Trust me, I've been before Judge Sullivan. You don't want to mislead the man. And she actually says in recent weeks, she had a meeting, face-to-face meeting, presumably in the Oval Office, with the President of the United States to update him about her client's case, about Mike Flynn's case. And then she adds, and I told the President, I don't want you to issue a pardon to my client, Mike Flynn. Okay, maybe I'd make a lousy defense attorney, but I'm not sure how that's zealously representing your client. Telling the president, the person who can just magically make Mike Flynn's criminal case disappear with a pardon, telling him, I don't want you to issue a pardon to my client. Well, most importantly, you know what happened to all of those arguments that the prosecutors were making about how Mike Flynn is getting no special treatment, no favors? So I guess the new Department of Justice policy is that all defense attorneys representing all defendants get a personal audience with the President of the United States. And they get to update the President of the United States about their client's case. And then they get to chat about pardons. I guess that's how it works because, the DOJ attorneys assured the judge that Mike Flynn was getting no special treatment, no favors. Come on. So then, fortunately, Judge Sullivan finally gave Judge John Gleason an opportunity to speak. Now, first of all, I call him Judge Gleason. He's a retired judge, but it's one of those formalities that you extend to former judges. So who is Judge Gleason? Judge John Gleason is the person that Judge Sullivan appointed when Bill Barr walked away from his responsibility to provide a prosecutor in the case, when Bill Barr and the Department of Justice became part of Mike Flynn's defense team. Judge Sullivan reached out and appointed former Judge John Gleason to come in and, just argue in favor of the rule of law. It's kind of nice to have somebody representing we the people in criminal prosecutions. And he was appointed to argue whether or not Judge Sullivan should grant the motion to dismiss Mike Flynn's case. And can I just add this footnote about John Gleason? John Gleason was a former federal prosecutor in New York who prosecuted mafia cases, including personally prosecuting mob boss John Gotti successfully to a conviction. John Gleason went on to become a federal district court judge in New York, where he served for 22 years before retiring. John Gleason basically embodies honor and ethics and decency and excellence in public service. And he was just there to speak on behalf of the people, the rule of law, decency. And he addressed a number of issues, but I want to quote what he said about the Department of Justice's ever-changing reasons and justifications and explanations and excuses for wanting to dismiss Mike Flynn's case after Mike Flynn pleaded guilty. And about those ever-changing, made-up reasons, here's what John Gleason said, quote, "The reasons being given by the government are so clearly pretextual that the government keeps having to come up with more of them," close quote. And then he talked about how this whole thing, this whole argument was manufactured. It was orchestrated to get rid of Mike Flynn's case. Why? Because Donald Trump wanted Mike Flynn's case to be killed. And there was a good bit of discussion about whether Judge Sullivan should take into account, as part of the evidence in this hearing, Donald Trump's tweets. Donald Trump's tweets saying that the Mike Flynn case is a witch hunt and it's a hoax and he's innocent and he was railroaded and I would welcome him back into my administration. And I'm sure this will shock you that the Department of Justice lawyers said, "No, Judge, we don't think you should pay any attention to those tweets." And Judge John Gleason said, "Of course, you must pay attention to those tweets, Judge, because that is the explanation for why the Department of Justice is orchestrating this corrupt dismissal of a case after the defendant pleaded guilty." And he added after that, quote, this is what John Gleason said, "This isn't easy for any of us. This isn't easy for me. This is our Department of Justice too." And, that kind of hit me. This is our Department of Justice too, yours and mine, not just Donald Trump's plaything, not just Bill Barr's Department of Justice, for the Attorney General to be at the beck and call of every corrupt request from a corrupt president. This is our Department of Justice, too. And then John Gleason kind of came back to that refrain toward the end of his argument, and he said, it's sad. It's sad what's being done for Mike Flynn at the behest of Donald Trump. It's sad because this is our Department of Justice, too. What's going to happen next? Nobody knows, and Judge Sullivan said he's going to take it under advisement and will issue a decision in due course. Not sure what that means, but judges like to leave their options open, so we hear the in due course thing quite a bit. If you had asked me before today's hearing, I would have said there's probably a good chance that Judge Sullivan will feel at the end of the day like he is obligated to grant the motion to dismiss Mike Flynn's case. I think it's going to be a close call, but after hearing today's arguments and hearing just how persuasive John Gleason was, arguing in favor of the rule of law, arguing in favor of a criminal justice system and a Department of Justice that needs to practice with integrity and honor and ethics and not do favors, political favors for associates, criminal associates of the President of the United States. John Gleason's arguments were so powerful and so persuasive that I think there's a very good chance Judge Sullivan will deny the motion to dismiss Mike Flynn's case and will proceed to sentencing. I think that would look like justice. And justice matters. It matters. Folks, as always, please stay safe. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.